Ms. Blunt, you've worked in the field for many years. In your opinion, what are some of the issues facing education?
Well, the first thing that I can really talk about is high stakes testing. Testing has become a norm, especially with other issues in education, and it is a problem. Um, Teachers are being held accountable for students' scores on the testing, and it doesn't make it fair all across the board for all teachers. Another issue is discipline, or the lack of. Schools have to start being consistent with their discipline procedures. If not, the students will take over. Not having parental support is another one, and that also has to go with discipline, because discipline would not be as big an issue if parents were more involved in their children's education.
So, at the beginning of your career, do you think the kids are less disciplined? Do you think it's the kids, or do you think it's the rules or the administration?
Well, administration actually has been the same. We expect for children to come to school behaving so that they can learn. And a lot of the problem is parents. What I have noticed is the parents get younger, and it's almost like children raising children. And I've said that before, and it does become an issue, because instead of parents being parents, they're trying to be friends to their children. So yes, it is an issue, and until we can get parents more involved and get them to know that discipline is important, it will always be a problem.
Can you tell me about an experience that directly affected you as it relates to discipline or high stakes testing or anything that you mentioned previously?
Well, their discipline, and I'll go with that first. Issues with discipline that affect me. I try to be explicit at the beginning of the school year and let my parents and students know what is expected of them. However, sometimes when you have to discipline your child, the parent does not always agree with what you have said, and so that causes some issues. And usually I have to call them in, and we have to sit down and have a conversation that will help iron out the discrepancies. As far as when we were talking about high stakes testing, some school districts, and particularly ours, deals with EVOS. And EVOS is an educational value-added data system where teachers are you look at their growth with their students, and it is an accountability program. And it also sometimes is not fair, because you can work with students all year, but some students do not test well, so test anxiety comes in there. And you may not have students who are working on grade level, but you have to test them on grade level content. And that all becomes an issue when it comes to teachers being held accountable for test scores.
It seems that with every new leader or president, the school system is affected. How did you feel, or how do you feel about No Child Left Behind?
Well, No Child Left Behind to me was a waste of time and money. And when you really look at the program, it was to get money funded into the schools. When the program didn't do what they expected it to do, funding was decreased. You cannot take all of these things that they want you to do with children and do it without proper funding. And as I said, I think I've heard this somewhere, I said it, this program really meant that children were left behind. Because even though there were programs that were designed, supposed to be to help children, and like I said, an extra funding, once that funding started to dwindle, those kids were just left. There were programs that were started, they weren't successful, and the ones that might have been helping the children, they ended up not being successful because of funding cuts, and so it was a waste of time.
How does the society and politics play a part of some of the issues facing education?
Well, politicians, you know how they are. They're a little tricky. And they will they will propose things and get you to tell them what you want, and then and get them to vote for them. And then once they get in office, their values and their proposals all go a different way. And then you're left looking like, well, why did I vote for this person? So then, yeah, politics does play because it affects the morale of everyone.
But we spoke about issues and what you thought some of the greatest issues facing education was. I'm going to change gears really quickly. Every year, you get a new class, and for the most part, you get, they try to give you about 20 kids. Some are boys, some are girls. Do you see any trends or anything going on different with the boys versus girls with gender?
Actually, there seems to be in every class, we always end up having more girls than boys. Even though the teachers in the previous grade will try to group children according to their abilities or try to equal it out, it does not always happen that way. Me specifically, this year, I have a class that has a lot of low learners. I am up for the challenge, but it almost doesn't seem fair when I have a class full of low achievers and some of the other teachers have classes with high achievers. So again, accountability. So I think that is an issue with.
Okay, so how are you interacting with these kids then? The low learners. I mean, you probably have in 20 with a class of 20, you probably would have 10 that are low learners, or how do you interact with your students?
Well,
low and high learners.
My interaction, I always do activities that everybody can relate to.
So, Ms. Blunt, lastly, on a totally different note, what type of impact do you think specialists, music, art, PE, have on education? And then I want you to talk specifically about what impact do you think media specialists have on education?
Okay, well, I think it's a really great impact that those special teachers have on students. First of all, students need that rounds out their education. When they're in the classroom, they're doing academics. When they're outside of the classroom, they're doing social interaction, learning music, art. Even with PE, they're building their physical body to better do academic skills. So it's very important. As far as the media specialist is really a great addition to the teacher input because children need the media specialist to help them with research, any information that's not available that the teacher is not able to do. And then, of course, when it comes to technology, where would we be without the media specialist who specializes in technology, especially for teachers who are not technology savvy? I'm not one. But yes, and without that, and I have been at a school where there was no media specialist, and you can tell a difference because it puts that much more work on the teacher. So most teachers, and I can speak for myself and other teachers, really need the help of special teachers to help make our students well-rounded.
Well, that concludes our interview, and I would just like to have a special thank you to Ms. Blunt, our teaching guru, and Mr. McCullum, our cameraman. Thanks.